The Witch of Endor, known as the Mistress of the Ob in Endor, is a figure from the Hebrew Bible consulted by King Saul to summon the spirit of the prophet Samuel. Saul sought her help after his efforts to seek guidance from God through sacred lots and other means failed. The summoned entity, whether the actual ghost of Samuel or an impersonating spirit, prophesies doom for Saul and his army, who are subsequently defeated. This narrative is found in the first book of Samuel and is also mentioned in the deuterocanonical book of Sirach. In biblical Hebrew, she is referred to as Eshet Ba'alat Auvba Be'ain Dover, Ezet Ba'alat Ob Be'ain Dor, meaning a woman, possessor of an Ob at Endor, Ein Dor, a location meaning a circular well or spring. Scholar Harry A. Hoffner suggests that the word Aovb, OB, refers to a ritual pit used for summoning the dead from the underworld, based on similarities in other Near Eastern and Mediterranean cultures. The term has cognates in other regional languages, such as Sumerian Ab, Akkadian Abu, Hittite Abai, and Ugaritic Ib, and the Witch of Endor's ritual has parallels in Babylonian and Hittite magical texts, as well as in the Odyssey. Other interpretations of the term Ob include a familiar spirit, a talisman, or even a wineskin, possibly alluding to ventriloquism. In the Greek Septuagint, she is referred to as Engastromythos en Endor, while the Latin Vulgate calls her Pythonem in Endor, both terms referring to pagan oracles of the time. The medium says she sees Elohim arising, using the plural form Elohim, though Saul later refers to the apparition in the singular, from the ground, using the word typically translated as gods to refer to the spirit of the dead. This usage mirrors the Akkadian cognate ILU, which also means God and is used similarly. When the prophet Samuel dies, he is buried in Ramah, 1 Samuel 25:1, 28:3. Saul, the king of Israel, seeks God's guidance for his campaign against the Philistines, but receives no answer from dreams, prophets, or the Urim and Thummim. Having expelled all necromancers and magicians from Israel, Saul searches for a witch anonymously and learns that one resides in Endor. Disguised, he crosses enemy lines to visit her and requests that she summon Samuel. Initially, the woman refuses due to Saul's ban on sorcery, but Saul reassures her that she will not be punished. The woman conjures a spirit, and when it materializes, she realizes who Saul is and exclaims, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." Saul reassures her that no harm will come to her and inquires about what she sees. She responds that she sees Elohim, a plural term for gods, rising. Saul then asks for a description, and she describes an old man wrapped in a robe. Saul bows to the spirit, but he seems unable to see it himself. The spirit, upset at being disturbed, chastises Saul for disobeying God and foretells Saul's doom. While the living Samuel had already foretold the removal of Saul's kingship, this spirit goes further, predicting the defeat of Israel's army and that Saul and his sons will be with me the next day. Terrified, Saul collapses, and the woman comforts him, preparing a meal of a fatted calf to restore his strength. The next day, the prophecy is fulfilled. The Israelite army is defeated. Saul is wounded by the Philistines, and he commits suicide by falling on his sword. Later, a young Amalekite falsely claims to have delivered the death blow to impress David, who then executes him. In 1 Chronicles, it is stated that Saul's death was partly a punishment for seeking advice from a medium instead of God. The Yalkut Shimoni, an 11th century text, identifies the unnamed witch as Abner's mother. Based on the witch's ability to see something while Saul only heard a disembodied voice, the Yalkut suggests that necromancers can see the spirits of the dead but cannot hear them, while the person for whom the spirit is summoned can hear the voice but cannot see the apparition. Antoine Augustin Calmet, writing in the 18th century, notes that contemporary Jews believed a person's spirit wanders for a year after their death, visiting their body and observing events around it. He suggests that it was during this year that the Witch of Endor summoned Samuel's spirit, as evocation would not have been possible afterward. In the Septuagint, 2nd century BC, the woman is described as a ventriloquist, reflecting the Alexandrian translator's belief that demons do not exist. Conversely, the Hebrew book of Sirach, composed around the same period, treats it as a fact that Samuel prophesied to Saul after his death. Josephus, writing in the 1st century AD, also appears to find the story entirely credible. The Church Fathers and some contemporary Christian writers have debated the theological implications of this text, which seems to suggest that it is possible, albeit forbidden, for humans to summon the spirits of the dead through magic. King James, in his philosophical treatise Demonology, 1597, rejected the idea that the witch was merely performing ventriloquism. However, he also denied that she had truly summoned Samuel's spirit. Instead, he argued that the devil can sometimes take on the appearance of saints, referencing 2 Corinthians 11:14, which states that Satan can transform himself into an angel of light. James refers to the witch of Endor as Saul's Pythonese, comparing her to the ancient Greek oracle Pythia. He supports the reality of witchcraft, asserting that if such practices were impossible, Scripture would not forbid them. Certain it is that the law of God speaks nothing in vain, neither does it lay curses, or enjoin punishments upon shadows, condemning that to be ill, which is not in essence or being as we call it. Other medieval interpretations of the Bible also proposed that what the witch summoned was not Samuel's ghost, but a demon impersonating him or an illusion created by the witch. Martin Luther, who believed the dead were unconscious, interpreted it as the devil's ghost, while John Calvin thought it was not the real Samuel but a specter, in his treatise on the apparitions of spirits, 1759. Antoine Augustin Calmet briefly discusses the Witch of Endor, among other scriptural evidence of the reality of magic. He acknowledges that this interpretation is debated and states that he will not draw any conclusions from the passage other than that the woman was considered a witch and Saul regarded her as such. Since the passage mentions that the witch cried out in fear when she saw Samuel's spirit, some interpreters argue that the witch was not responsible for summoning Samuel's spirit, attributing the act to God instead. Joyce Baldwin, 1989, writes that the incident does not validate mediums' claims to consult the dead because the woman's behavior indicates that this was an extraordinary and frightening event for her, and she was not in control. Grenville Kent summarizes 2 primary historical interpretations. First, that Samuel genuinely appeared, either in bodily form or through resurrection. Second, that a demon impersonated Samuel to lead Saul to ruin. He contends that the latter interpretation aligns more closely with the text. Spiritualists have viewed this story as evidence of ancient spirit mediumship. It has been referenced in debates between spiritualist proponents and Christian critics. A Chicago spiritualist paper in 1875 asserted, "The woman of Endor was a medium, respectable, honest, law-abiding, and far more Christ-like than Christian critics of spiritualism." Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.